All right, I think we can get started. Since so I guess the meeting tonight, Community League Coaches meeting. Welcome everybody. The meeting is going to be recorded, so after the session is over, in the next day or two, we'll end up emailing the recording out to each of the community leaders, representatives, club presidents, and they'll be able to distribute it to all of you again, and I guess anybody who wasn't able to attend tonight. So. Maybe just quick introduction. My name is Mike Thill. I'm the one of the coordinators of the Community League, and I am also the, I guess, representative for the Sheboygan community. So I'll be leading tonight's session, just sharing some information about the league. I guess everybody, we have all of the community coaches are welcome, or we're welcome to attend tonight. So again, just want to say that the communities participating in the league are Cedar Grove, Belgium, Elkhart Lake, Glanbiola, Howards Grove, Kohler, Manitowoc, Oostburg, Sheboygan, and Sheboygan Falls. So all of those communities are participating in the community league this fall. Great to have Oostburg and Cedar Grove, Belgium join us, and Sheboygan Falls to a larger extent. So I just want to say, for things like ball distribution or practice field sign up or shirt distribution, work with your, practice field sign up, work with your community leaders, club presidents for those things. Okay. Tonight's format, I guess I'm going to be talking about start off with essentially general information for grades 1 through 8, so essentially for everybody. And then after that is over, kind of some special time to just go through the rule modifications for grades 1 through 4. Last year was the first year that we, first year of the community league, and first year for some of those rules. So a lot of different things. So it merits special attention and time for that. So I guess with that said, just want to say, I guess, thank you to all of you as coaches out there. Understand that you're volunteering a lot of time, a lot of your time to mentor these young boys and girls on their soccer journey and life journey a little bit. So I guess thank you right off the bat for that. Again, the season is going to be Saturday, September 11th through October 30th. So that's when the season runs for games. Games are going to be Saturday mornings. There'll be a handful probably early afternoon. So that's kind of maybe similar for those that have participated in the community or rec league in the past. Very similar. The tournament. So there's a league tournament that's included as part of just the season for everybody. All teams are automatically in unless circumstances dictate that your team is not able to participate. But that is going to be October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So that would be Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, most likely. We have still kind of getting final tallies, but there are more than 170 teams participating in the community league from 1st grade through 8th grade. So that's a lot of teams. I'll talk a little bit more about, let's see. I guess I can finish talking about the tournament. So well, no, I'll come back to that. So that's going to be that weekend. Every team is automatically in. The division, I guess, for the schedules. So the game schedules were they should be finished at least probably a week before the season starts. Again, we're still gathering final tallies for teams from each of the different communities and coach contact information. That ends up getting pulled into the schedule. So that's why it's critical for us to have all of that information squared away so that we can really get going on the schedule. But I guess I'm sure parents will be asking you, hey, when is the schedule ready? You'll be wondering yourself. So let's just say a week before September 11th is when you can really look to expect that. As far as team placements and divisions, there are separate boys and girls teams by grade for every grade. So first grade boys, first grade girls, second grade boys, second grade girls, all the way through fifth and sixth grade, and then the seventh and eighth grade division will be combined. So seventh and eighth grade girls teams against each other, and seventh and eighth grade boys teams against each other. So that's maybe a little bit different for those that had participated in the Y League in the past, where it was, some of the younger kids were combined grades, and maybe boys and girls together on the same team. So just want to let everybody know that's how teams are being formed. Your community leaders, club presidents will be reaching out to all of you with your team rosters, if they have not. So that's where that information will come from. Let's see. So again, game schedules, we talked about that. And then on the game schedule, there's going to be a placeholder for the tournament weekend. So the game schedule will be done, let's say, a week before the season starts, but then the tournament schedule is going to come after that. And that will be a separate schedule because, like I had said, there are going to be a handful of teams that for whatever reason are maybe not, let's say, available that weekend. We're going to need to account for that. So that schedule will come a couple weeks later. But the idea is that we would have that ready, hopefully, let's say 2 weeks before that event. So not a lot later. And the tournament will be hosted in Sheboygan. Primary location would be Horace Mann, but I guess we'll see if everything can be held there. Let's see. I just want to, and I guess maybe share my screen and show you what the game schedule will end up looking, and I guess how to navigate it. Again, for those that participated last year, this will be familiar, I guess, to what the spring season was. But for those of you that are new, it will be a little bit different. So tell me, can you see my screen where I'm on the Lakeshore United webpage and I'm on the community tab? Can people see that?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, thank you. So this will be one of the main pages that you will come to for information. The schedule will get placed out here. For the 2021 spring season, those spring schedules are still out here. And when you click on it, so we'll put something out here for fall 2021, but when you click on it, it's not a PDF. It'll take, don't be alarmed, it'll take a little while to load. And what you'll be presented with is essentially the different divisions. So first grade boys, second grade boys. So you'll want to click on the division to find your schedule, whichever group you're part of. So let's say that you're third grade boys, you'd click here. And again, it'll take a little while to load. It's generating the information. And what it will do is it will bring up all of the teams that are participating in that division, so people can see my screen, all the different third grade boys teams from this past spring. Can people see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you can either look at it in the full view by week, all of the particular teams. So you can do that for the whole week. And it looks like that there's even a by month where it shortens it up in this case, maybe because it ended up being a little bit long. You can find your team this way, and we have the location specified here. So you could take that approach and click on it. and it would end up pulling up. So Goal Getters is now Manitowoc FC. So they've rebranded, but it would end up giving the address of the location and then some of the different parks in a Google map, their different fields and a Google map to go along with that. But if we go back here, the easiest thing to do is if you actually click on your team name. So if we choose Howard's Grove, it will summarize just your games. So I would encourage everybody to do this for your team as coaches, and then just send it out to your team. So here it will show all of the games for that 3rd grade boys Howard's Grove team. And you don't have to pick through each week to find out when you play. It's all nice and summarized. You can highlight it, copy, paste, send an email, and then that's your team schedule. So you can take that approach. As a coach, I would encourage you almost to come out here every weekend just in case there was a change. There would be, generally there'd be communication from your community if there would be any game times that change. But then again, you can just click on the location to see where you play. Does that make sense, hopefully, or are there any questions on, I guess, navigating the schedule? And, yep, go ahead. Let me see if I can check the chat. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I think, Kristen, kind of the question, do we need to check it, every single week? I don't think you need to. That's why I suggested, I say from a parent perspective, from a player perspective, I would say that, they don't need to. As a coach, I don't know, I've just always been in the habit of, kind of checking there just to make sure that nothing has changed. If anything were to be changed, again, we'd be working with the coach directly or, your community leadership just on that end. So I don't know. It's worth kind of a double check just in case some information is stale, but I would not tell your parents to do that every week. So I don't think you need to worry about it. Any other questions on the schedule?
Is this information readily available? I guess I'm actively going on the website and it's showing fall 2020, not fall 2021.
If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see spring 2021.
Got it. Thank you.
So yeah, we'll put something out there for fall 2021 as soon as it is available, but just wanted to walk through that with everybody. Probably many people are used to, spring was the first time that we had done it this way. And, in past years, it's maybe a PDF or something that gets posted out there. And then along with that, what you can do, if you're looking for the coach information, when you pull up your team or another team, just click on it, and then it would end up showing their name and email address. Okay. All right. So then, and the tournament schedule will be something very similar to that. So at some point we'll say, hey, the tournament schedule is ready. Here's a link to it, and you can go and select your division and find all of your team's games just the same as you would here. And what I was saying is for that October 2nd weekend, we'll have a placeholder in the schedule. You won't see a gap from September 25th to October 9th. So we'll have a placeholder for October 2nd so that people don't get confused and think that there's maybe a bye or there's no game. So that will be done. Tournament game schedule, talked about that. Talked about player shirt and ball distribution. COVID-19 protocols. So that's something that there was a lot of focus on in the fall and some focus again in the spring. At this time, there are no, I guess, special requirements for, I guess, related to COVID. As far as what people have to do, where they have to stand, do they have to wear masks? So that so nothing there, but again, that's just something, depending on, how things go in this area, that's subject to change. That would be communicated out if let's say that something comes up there. So I just want to address that. Referees, be nice to them, right? I don't know how else to really say it. I'm the referee coordinator for, I guess, all communities, referee assigner for all communities except for Manitowoc and Elkhart Lake. So I'll be assigning referees for games hosted in Cedar Grove, Belgium, in Oostburg, in Sheboygan Falls, in Sheboygan, in Kohler, and Howard's Grove. So I don't know, I've been assigning referees in games hosted in Sheboygan for, I think it's at least the last 10 years. And, every referees are a challenge, not just in soccer, but in any sport. And it's a matter of having enough of them. It's a matter of encouraging them when they're out there. And, if you're going to provide some feedback, to do it in a positive manner. Many of them, we have lots of referees that are in the 13, 14-year-old range. 13 is the youngest that we start, or that I allow a kid to referee, let's say. And, they're very impressionable. I mean, think all of you are coaching, many of you are coaching your kids, and, many of them are not that far off in age. And I guess just, if they're not making calls that you think, not interacting with the kids, not managing the game the way that you think or that they should, it's not going to be, I'm going to say it's not going to be the end of the world. This isn't the World Cup. I mean, that said, we do want them to do well. There are expectations out there. That would be something to, I guess, share with your community leaders, and then they would end up passing that along to me. For that feedback that, hey, a particular referee maybe needs some help, needs some work, can I work with them or talk with them? But don't yell at them. Again, they're trying, they're learning, and every season, like I said, I've gone through this a number of years already as the coordinator for Sheboygan, and now with this league for many of the communities. There's a lot of turnover. So again, if the referee doesn't have a good experience, then they quit, and then it's everybody else that's brand new. And the other thing to keep in mind is you're playing games every weekend, but they're not all working games every weekend. It might be week 3 and it might be their first game that they're working. It might be week 5 and it's their first game because they're not available the other weeks. So that's something they're learning, especially these grades 1 through 4 rule modifications. It's not anything that they've played in, so it's a format that's very different for them. But again, I guess help encourage them to grow. And all of you, if you know of any people that might be interested in refereeing, adults as well, we're always looking for adults to kind of help out, especially in the older age group games. Send them my way. We have a section on the website where we have the training listed, but my phone number, I'll type it in the chat, along with my email address as well. If you have referees, just send them my way.
Mike, can you say your number? I don't think the chat is
Sure.
recorded.
Sure.
In the recording.
Sure. So again, my name is Mike Thill. My phone number is 920-208-3789. And again, my email address that I'm working out of is mthill, M-T as in Tom, H-I-L-L at acuity.com. So mthill@acuity.com. And again, you could just have them shoot me a text or something like that. So So referees are super important, always looking for more, always looking to help encourage that those young kids to grow, learn and grow in the sport and do better. So coach team sportsmanship, just, some brief comments on this. Again, it is a community league. It's competitive. Many people are competitive, but that said, don't run up the score on teams. If you have teams that are a little bit older, by third grade, all of a sudden, you're winning 5, 6, 7. Tell the kids shoot with your left foot, or to connect X number of passes before they can shoot. But it's not a great feeling when a team they win 20-0, or if a team is losing 20-0, something like that. It's just very deflating for players and coaches alike. So don't run up the score. I would say encourage your players and parents to be polite to the other team. So again, that's something, if you hear your players out on the field making comments that the other team isn't very good, or that's generally what it ends up being. Clamp down on that. As coaches, don't wait for the referee to do something. That's your job as a coach. And then another thing is help correct your players' behavior if the referees aren't calling fouls. So don't say, hey, if the referee, or have the mindset that if the referee is not calling fouls or not correcting players, don't necessarily just think that the behavior is right or wrong. Many of you have, not everybody, but many of us have played soccer before, so you kind of have an idea of what pushing is, and running with your arms outstretched, or kicking or tripping or slide. Help encourage your players to play how they should. So I think that's very important, to have that mindset. Cancellations and reschedules. Just kind of a note on that. If there's a weather-related cancellation, check the website. And the website is lakeshoreunitedfc.org. Everybody went on there to register to play, but there would be a note or a message on there if known in advance of the game day, if the games were going to be canceled, something along those lines, due to, let's say, poor field conditions. That would also be something, if it was done ahead of time. The community leaders, representatives, club presidents would be talking together. We'd all be talking, and figuring out if games could be played in every one of our host locations. So it could turn out that games in Sheboygan are okay, but let's say games in Howard's Grove are not, or it could be some combination thereof. So, that's something to be mindful of. We would try to have kind of a general message, but in the cases where everything is okay and there's just storms forecasted for the day of the games, if that happens to be the case, the general rule is the games are on unless you're told otherwise. So you, as coaches, encourage all of your players and parents, and if you've ever experienced it before, all of a sudden, you're getting tons of emails, or you're getting lots of text messages, just everybody's wondering, is the game on, yes or no? And the on the website, it would be just something posted on the main page. Joe, if you're out there, kind of listening along, on the website for cancellations, it would be just on the main page, right?
Correct. We would just put it right on the front page. As soon as you log in, there'll be some rain cancellation. And I also try to push stuff out on Facebook as well, if you're active on that social media.
All right, thank you. So, that's what would be done there. But again, kind of, if it's that the day of and the weather is, kind of questionable, show up to the game field, and, it might be that you get your game in and the next team doesn't. But on the field, if there's lightning, then the game needs to be stopped for at least 20 minutes. And again, I had mentioned that, all of the many of the referees are younger, younger kids. So what I like to see is it's a collaborative discussion, referee and the coaches. You know, if somebody sees it or one of the parents sees that, you know, that's the case, you know, get together, you know, huddle up and say, okay, you know what, this is what we're going to do. If the weather is bad, let's say it's raining, and you know, different age kids are going to handle that different. A first grade team is probably not going to want to play in, you know, heavy rain downfall, you know, the same as older kids, you know, might. And again, weather-wise, cold-wise and stuff. So again, looking for, you know, as coaches, you to have some agreement on that along with the referee. Don't necessarily say, you know, hey, the referee didn't call the game, like, I guess we're still playing. It's a discussion. And the Facebook page is I believe it is My Lakeshore United FC. So I guess that's it on, I guess, cancellations and reschedules. Also, let your club leadership know if, you know, a game is not going to be played. Let's say the other coach reached out to you and called you. So, and we say contact the other coach via phone, always. So if for some reason your team is canceling and not going to be able to play, always call the other coach. You know, make sure to get a hold of them. And then you would also want to let your club leadership know, and then text me. I would say probably text me. I'd included my name or my number so that the referees can be notified. If referees show up to a game that was canceled, they still get paid. Because it was time out of their schedule, they had blocked it off so that they could make it there. So just make sure that everybody that needs to know has been made aware. And any questions on game cancellations? Hopefully we don't have any. Let's see. And then there's something for, I'll see if I can send it out later tonight now that most of the coaches have been identified for all of the communities, but there are some practice activities, some practice plans that each of you can use in your practices, are encouraged to use in your practices, that Lakeshore's Director of Coaching, Jonathan Greenfield, has put together. So I'll pass those out to the community leadership groups and and then they'll distribute that to all of you as well. And it's really, really kind of nice. It breaks it down. You know, if it's first, second grade, here's what you could do in week 1. Here's what you could do in week 2. A different practice plan for each week for the different groups. So, and everybody is able to see kind of first through, you know, from youngest to oldest, kind of what is available for practice plan ideas. And again, like I said, recommended to be used. So that's that. And then play format principles. Again, before we jump into the rules, or once we get to that point for the grades 1 through 4, some of what we've done is it's just smaller, again, kind of at the recommendation of our Director of Coaching when we're coming up with what the format would be. But just fewer numbers of players on the field means that players are more likely to be involved in play, and have an opportunity to touch the ball, and like I said, be involved. And the smaller fields help facilitate that, a little bit more focus on dribbling and passing, being able to do those things well and make that their decision. And again, rules that focus on important aspects for player development, those things that are most pertinent maybe to the game. Also, so we'll talk more about play format principles a little bit later. But as all of the teams are being built and the coaches assigned, that's kind of ongoing as we speak. All of you, I guess, will end up being asked to complete something called a risk management. As coaches or any assistant coaches that are on there, risk management, and it is essentially a background check that ends up getting done by WISA, Wisconsin Youth Soccer Association, of which we're members, registered members. That's where the insurance is coming from. So there's kind of background check that ends up getting done independently. It'll be a $15 charge that's asked of everybody, and everybody that ends up doing that, you'll be reimbursed for that $15. So I believe you'll end up with a check in the mail to do that. And then there's also something called Safe Sport. Safe Sport is an online video where that's 2 to 3 hours in length. And what it is, it talks about it on a number of topics. One is just being aware as a coach for player safety, just what to do in certain situations to watch out for, and then recognizing bullying that is maybe occurring at practices or in games or on the sideline, those types of things. So different situations there. And then I guess appropriate and inappropriate behavior with coaches and parents, coaches and players, I should say. And I believe it's an every other year thing. Kind of the question in the chat, how often does this need to be done? So if you did it last fall, let's say, or this past spring, then I suspect you're covered. So I don't, the Safe Sport, I think there's maybe a refresher, a much shorter version, a 15 or 20-minute version refresher, that might be an every year thing, or that might just be the renewal thing. So information, Don Cloco, our Lake Shores Club administrator, who's working on creating teams and doing all those things, assigning coaches to teams that'll get pulled into the schedule. Kind of main person answering the phones and answering lots of questions. She will be sending out information on that topic, and I feel like maybe that's already been distributed. That when that comes out, just fill it out. So again, the Safe Sport, I think it was, I've sat through it and watched it. I think some very good information in there. And just, if you haven't thought about it, some of the different situations that coaches can find themselves in, as far as, kind of the do's and the don'ts, don't be social media, having social media interactions with some of your younger players. Don't, be giving kids rides, to and from practice without, parents' knowledge, those types of things. So just kind of some safety things for all parties involved. So that's risk management and Safe Sport. Everybody needs to complete that. Please make a point of it to do it as soon as you're told about it. Let's see, I'm just trying to scan back through. I did want to pull up on the website again. So again, if I share my screen. All right, so everybody can see my screen. I'm showing the Lakeshore United, the community page again. So you go from the home page, programs, and then community soccer, and then this screen comes up. Here is where so I'd mentioned the schedule will be here, as well as the rules are also listed here, league rules. So the modifications for grades 1 through 4 are here, but I wanted to just pull up briefly the rules, kind of the full rules, and this kind of gets into what's a goal kick, what's a corner kick, what are proper uniforms, or I guess what's proper clothing or equipment that people can wear, can't wear. But I wanted to just bring up this section, the play information, to let everybody know that this is out here too. And mention, if you've not heard it or not aware, if you're a first grade coach, the game length is going to be 4 10-minute quarters. a size 3 ball. They're going to be 3 players on the field, and that includes a goalkeeper. So it's going to be 2 plus a keeper, is what that is. For second grade, it's 4 10-minute quarters. Again, a size 3 ball, 4 players on the field, and they have 3. So it's 3 plus a goalkeeper for each team. Let's see. Yeah, for third and fourth grade, it's 4 12-minute quarters. It's a size 4 ball, 5 players on the field, 4 required to start. So it's 5. So 4 plus a goalkeeper. Fifth and then these are kind of the more special groups where things are maybe very different than maybe what people are used to. And again, that's going to be the second part of the meeting here. I'll go through that. Everybody's welcome to stay and hear it and listen to it, but really, I guess, more focused towards the 1st through 4th grade teams. And then 5th and 6th grade is 2 30-minute halves. 7th and 8th grade is 2 35-minute halves. So that stuff is pretty similar. Encourage all of you to go through and read this. This is part of the referee training that I go through with all of the kids. But that's, like I said, go through that with all of the referees that are going through referee training. I like reading it because it's a good refresher. You know, for me, people invariably forget certain nuances to the rules. I think for, I'd also, I think, mention, maybe I didn't mention in this meeting, but had thought, you know, similar, at the start of games, you know, so a COVID sort of related thing, we had been in the habit of lining up shoulder to shoulder, and the teams facing each other, and the referee doing kind of a pregame speech. What I've told the referees is we'll keep that part the same as this past season. We'll just check teams in. Referees will look over equipment and give a little talk, kind of with each team separately. So we won't get everybody together. And, you know, at the end of the game, we won't, you know, shake hands with everybody, clap hands. We'll, you know, just acknowledge the other team and, you know, tell them good game. So I think we'll do that. Teams will be on one side of the field, and fans, their respective fans, will be on the opposite side of the field. So teams on one side, fans and spectators will be on the opposite side. Let's see, are there any questions? So if you have a question, maybe type it in the chat. So I think this is a good sign. Or people are slow typers.
I'm a slow typer. I have a question about, so if I already know I have a vacation planned, is it the same as what it was with the goal getters? You just have a sub come in basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of a great point. You know, just from a, you know, coach perspective, like, what do you do if you can't make a game? You know, just as was said, you know, find a parent to fill in that game, or, you know, maybe everybody, some teams have assistant coaches, you know, people that, you know, maybe helping out with practices or things, and kind of get to know some of the players out there. Because I guess a substitute coach, maybe I'll say this, a coach missing the game is not a reason to cancel the game. Right? If your team has enough players there to participate, it just because the coach is not available that day doesn't mean that you should be calling it and canceling the game. Work within the team, find a parent to take over if you don't have an assistant coach just for that weekend. Trying to go the reschedule work is a lot of moving parts involved in that. Okay, if there are, I guess, equipment needs. So if there are equipment needs for any community, I would say reach out to your club leadership. And then I guess you can send those questions to me and we'll kind of see what everybody's, thinking from that aspect. We can do things like, we can, Lakeshore is fine with making purchases on behalf of communities and then, working that out, later with each of them. Communities are free to make kind of different equipment purchases for their communities. So I think, yeah, if there's something in particular that, communities are thinking of that they're, kind of wondering about, you can send that question or suggestion to me. That's fine. Other questions?
Hey, Mike, I just have one quick one. You might have covered it, but with the safe sport and the risk management, if we took it in spring, do we take it again in fall?
I imagine that I believe it's a 2-year, that it's
Oh.
good for 2 years.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or I think it's an every other year as far as a risk management, unless that has changed. The safe sport, I think, is once you take it, the full version, then I think there's an abbreviated version. So like a 20-minute version, let's say,
Nice.
to
Okay.
sort of be considered recertified for that.
Thank you.
Good question. After game snacks,
Hmm.
kind of an important, I don't know, something I think a lot of the kids look forward to, especially in the younger age groups. From my perspective, each community maybe has different opinions on this, community leadership. I would encourage, if you're going to do something like that, it might be nice if it's packaged. Again, kind of each group is going to kind of do what they're going to do. I think use good judgment depending on package. Does that mean it's less healthy or more healthy? I don't know, as far as what kind of snacks or treats. But again, the whole thing, kind of comes down to, again, as coaches, encourage your players not to share like water bottles and stuff, right? For any of you who have coached a number of years, I'm sure everybody's seen it, happen. Somebody forgets water or something along those lines, but it kind of is, maybe the same with snacks. If they're doing it, I would suggest if it were my team running it, that it would be packaged and, maybe the coach is distributing it versus players. Yes. So grades 5 through 8. So Matt, I know you were 4th grade coach last season. There are throw-ins for grades 5 through 8. So again, the grades 5 through 8 is, I'll say, similar to what people are used to. Grades 5 and 6 are 8v8 and grades 7 and 8 are 11v11, but all standard rules apply there. So there's direct and indirect, there are throw-ins, goalkeepers can punt the ball, kind of everything there. So yeah, fifth and sixth. So so we're doing everything by grade here. So I think what most people would consider U11 and U12 is 5th and 6th grade. Yes, those are the same size fields.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm reading through the guidelines,
Mhm.
and it says for start of play, let's see, ball does not move forward, sideways, or backward. The game is restarted. So what direction can the ball start this year?
Any direction.
If the ball does not move forward, sideways, or backward, the game is restarted. Okay,
So it basically means if the ball does not move.
thank you.
The way it's maybe people think that's an odd way to phrase that, but I think maybe 2-3 years ago or so, the or backward was included. It always used to move, it needed to move forwards or sideways. So that's maybe there's special mention of that backwards. Any other questions?
I think when the ball move, it should go over to the other line first before it can go backward.
That's what the rule used to be. But I think that was changed, and it wasn't changed just, actually, I think if you scroll down to the full rules document, I think it is specified in there when that changed. And again, it wasn't anything that Lakeshore did. It wasn't anything, I know that rule applied in the Y League as well. I believe it came from, let's say, from WISA, who got it from US Soccer, who got it from, so it was something all the way on down the line.
Okay.
Another specific one that's in there, if you read closely, it always used to be that on a goal kick, the ball needed to clear the penalty area before anybody was allowed to touch it, right? So anybody that's, been around or coached, that's how everybody has understood that rule. A couple of years ago, and again, whether it was 2018, 2019, that ended up changing so that the opposing team not taking the goal kick, they have to be outside of the penalty area prior to the kick being taken. As soon as the ball is touched, so the rule changed, as soon as the ball is touched, it's in play. So that means somebody taking the goal kick can just tap it to somebody standing right next to them and they can dribble it out of the penalty area. And similarly, if they would do that, the opposing team would be able to rush right in at them. So that's one, I think not many people know about it. I've not seen many teams actually do that. But the old rule was everybody sat at the top of the penalty area for the younger age groups and waited to see if the kid could kick it past out of the penalty area. And the first one to the ball, then they try to shoot it right back at the goal. So I guess that is a difference as well that maybe not many people are aware of. Any other questions? So like I said, take a read through that full rules document. I wasn't going to take up everybody's time tonight going through that. But again, everything in there, I'll say there are no material changes in the last, I think, 2 years. So I think anything that anybody participating in the YMCA would have done, it should have been, I think, those same rules. But take a read through it if you're playing in grades 5, even if you're not playing in grades 5 through 8, that's sort of the base set of rules. And then the modifications end up superseding anything that's in there. Maybe the one thing that I would comment for the, I guess for the younger kids, when they're playing quarters, you alternate kickoffs each quarter and you switch sides at half is how that is supposed to be. Maybe another thing for all of you as coaches, if there's any desire to, for whatever reason, let's say modify something about the game, who knows what it is, if all of a sudden you don't have enough players or the full complement of players, or you don't have subs, reach out, bring the other coach over, let them know, hey, this is my situation, along with the referee, and kind of talk about it and see if anything is going to change. Similarly, if it's a hot weather day and there's a desire maybe to have a water break or a stoppage somewhere along the way, have that discussion before the game starts. Just any of those maybe slight modifications, that you can think of, or that if you're thinking about them before the game is starting, please handle them before it starts. Have a discussion with the other coach, have a discussion with the referee, just make sure everybody's on the same page as far as what's going to happen.
So to that point, like if you had a shortage of players, would the expectation possibly an outcome or whatever would be to have the other team drop down to that many players, is what you're saying?
It could be, that could be a situation. It could be. So again, if you know that you're going to be short players the day of, I would say call the coach ahead of time and figure out if, again, if it's serious, if you've got, 3 less than you're supposed to, okay, then that's not going to work. You know that ahead of time, that's not going to be good. But you might call the coach ahead of time and say, hey, this is what I've got. Would you want to just, scrimmage and just, mix the players up a little bit, play with pennies? That's an acceptable solution in order to play the game if a reschedule is not going to be possible. Or it might be that, as far as or both teams know, everybody's supposed to show up to the game. And when you get there, people aren't there. So again, I would, work with the other team and say, hey, here's what happened. We're both here. Let's play, right? So maybe you play smaller sided. Maybe it's not the full length of the game. The referees are there. People came to play. Especially if you drove from out of town, and then to say that, hey, we're not going to play. We're just going to drive back 30 minutes from wherever we came from. There's probably a better way to do that. So that's exactly what I mean. Just have that conversation. And again, what we're talking about, that's not the norm. That's kind of the 1% or the 2% of things that end up happening. If that's going to, in a 500 game season, if that's going to happen, 2 or 3 times, maybe, hopefully. But those are ways to address those situations.
In Manitowoc, we were shorter players, and the other coach loaned us 2 of their players so we could play the game.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. So that's where, as coaches, all of you adults, help work through a situation where many of the referees, they're going to be kids. So they're going to be like, okay, now what do I do? Like, this isn't in the training. What do I do? So, come to some, talk with the other coaches, come to some kind of conclusion. So a few other questions here in the chat. Will a 5th grade team play a 5th, 6th grade team? I'm going to say generally no. There are no absolutes, but if a team was, let's say they had 4 6th graders or something. I don't know what, the magic number is, or, every community, but if it ended up being a 50-50, they're playing in the 6th grade division. If it ended up that, there were just a couple, if there were 2 6th graders and the rest were all, so if there were, let's say 11 5th graders and 2 6th graders, that team is probably in the 5th grade division, because that makes most sense as far as where they would be slotted. And again, the important thing is maybe to think is it's the 3rd grade division or the 6th grade division. There are very slight things and situations where, maybe it's not 100%. So 5th grade, yes, goalkeepers can punt the ball. Can we recruit? Chelsea, do you maybe want to
You can
give a little bit more
disregard
light
it.
to the question?
Yeah, I was just kind of brainstorming off of the team that doesn't have enough players, because I've run into cases before where, I have to share my players with dance or hockey or what have you. So I'll know a week in advance, and I'll actually recruit sometimes previous teammates that I've had in the past, and sometimes they're on select. So I'll just kind of check in to make sure first if that would be okay, if I could borrow them for a minute as an alternative.
Yep. No, Chelsea, that's great. So Chelsea said, hey, you know what? Maybe there's, a player that plays in a different league that could make it. But something else that you could do, and maybe that's the solution if you're the only team in your division. But if you're from a community, if your community has a couple of teams in a particular division, so let's say 2nd grade boys as an example, and let's say you're one of 2 teams or one of 3 teams, maybe the other team has a couple players that could play with you to sort of even things out.
Mhm.
That's perfectly fine. The idea is that, in league play, we're not keeping standings.
Mhm.
There's not a league winner at the end that there's, a trophy or something for them. The idea is that, what, if we can find a way to make the game work, let's do that.
Amen.
So no, that's great. Equipment pickup. So equipment pickup or balls or shirts, disc cones, depending on sort of what your community is doing, just work with your community leadership. For Sheboygan, I could say that we're looking to get rosters out to everybody this week, and hopefully that we could do equipment pickup this week as well. But I'll be continuing to let you know when that is going to happen. Some groups maybe have that already, or some hard to say. Let's see. Each quarter for sub. So the again, maybe. So for first, second, third, and fourth grade, we'll go through those rules here in a second. But those, it's unlimited substitutions basically at any stoppage. Minus if it's a foul. Not to substitute on a foul. So that's when they can substitute. They're not prescribed. It's at the midway point of the quarter that the substitute happens. If there was, in that case, the referee maybe had it wrong. The other good thing, or maybe the other thing that I would recommend is, especially in those younger age groups where the referees are the newer referees, the younger referees. In some cases, that's the case with the coach as well. If you have something where maybe it didn't, go well the game before, when the referee comes over, just do a double check with them and say, hey, we're gonna alternate kickoffs every quarter, right? Okay, and then you have that agreement that as far as that, yep, that's how this is supposed to go. But it's a quick refresher for them. Or you say we can substitute on any time the ball goes out, right? Any goal kick, corner kick, or kick in, pass in, kickoff. So it just kind of bring that up maybe before the game, or bring it up at quarter. If you notice something was kind of odd, just kind of ask. Just asking.
Mike, I also think that's a really good point, just because these refs are going from each grade, and the change in the rules change so sporadically that they could just be bouncing from a 5th grade session back down to a 1st, and it can get confusing.
So yeah, I mean, that's generally speaking, if you're, we might have some people, let's say, that are doing 3rd and 4th that might bounce to 5th and 6th, depending on the weekend. Yeah, so the teams are playing the same rules every weekend, but some of the referees aren't. So that it can be a little bit confusing there. Kind of a general question. Every community is, I'll say, responsible for coming up with what their uniforms or shirts are going to look like or be. So I can say, maybe this is a Sheboygan question. Sheboygan is using dry fit shirts this year. So we've kind of moved on beyond the t-shirts. But every community, they may be working with their own, kind of logo, or their, whatever it may be, or maybe a community has a uniform kit that people have agreed to. Hey, this is what we're going to do. But all of this ends up being kind of a balancing act as well. So. All right, very good. I think that's really all I wanted to cover, except for the grades 1 through 4 rule modifications. So, people are more than welcome to stay on the call as we talk through those rules. So I'll start. Otherwise, I guess you're welcome to jump off the call. And again, this is recorded. We're recording this. It's going to be made available, sent out. So if there was a question about something, you can feel free to rewatch it, and we can send it to people that weren't available on the call as well. So, all right. So I'm going to jump into the grades 1 through 4 rules. So again, I'm going to go to the website. I'm going to share my screen. All right. And so if people can see my screen, I'm on the website again. And I'm gonna come to the off the Lakeshore United FC page, programs, community soccer, and then I'm gonna scroll down and find the rule modifications and exceptions. I'm gonna click on that. And it's a very short document, right? Very short document, but there's really a lot in here. And if you haven't played a lot of soccer, you know, maybe this is easy to get used to. If you have played a lot of soccer or seen a lot, this is, you maybe kind of scratch your head at some of these things. So one referee is used. So again, it's very small field. For first grade, it's 3v3. For second grade, it's 4v4. For third and fourth grade, it's 5v5. So a small field, one referee is used. Goalkeeper
Can you zoom
must
in a
wear a
little bit?
different color shirt or penny than both teams. Goalkeeper cannot punt the ball. Again, short fields doesn't make a lot of sense if somebody's kicking it all the way to the other end of the field.
Hey, Mike,
Goalkeeper can't
Mike,
use their hand. What's that?
Can you zoom in a little bit so I can read it
Oh.
your screen a little easier?
Yes, thank you. How is that better?
Perfect, thank you.
All right. I forget these things sometimes. So a goalkeeper can use their hands inside the goal area. What we're going to have is there's going to be an arc drawn in front of the goal. So for first and second grade, the field sizes are 20 yards by 30 yards, and the goal arc is a 4-yard radius. Okay, the goal itself is a 5 foot by 5 feet high by 10 foot wide goal. So a 4-foot radius means it's going to be a little bit on the outside. So it'd be 12 yards long at the center. No, I've got that wrong. 8. No, it's going to be 12. What am I doing? So it's going to be 12. Goalkeeper can use their hands. They can pick up the ball in there, and it's going to be marked by an arc. There are no throw-ins. It's going to be a dribble or a pass in. So if the ball goes out on the sideline, so red team kicks it out and it's green team's ball. Green is going to get the ball, put it on the side where it went out on the sideline, put the ball on the ground, and they either dribble it, they can dribble it back in, or they can kick it or pass it in. So that's how that is. There are no throw-ins there. The no throw-in applies to when it goes out on the sideline. Goalkeepers can throw the ball. So the goalkeeper collects the ball, they pick it up. They can either throw it, however they want, over their head like a throw-in. They can throw it like a baseball, or they can put it down at their feet and kick it. So any of those are acceptable options.
Mike,
yes.
should it be 3 yards from this restart as well that the opposing team should back up?
Yes. Yes. Yep. So that's down below here. So goal kicks and corner kicks, again, those are also dribble and pass restart. So on a corner kick, maybe that'd seem odd. On a corner kick, people are used to maybe seeing the kid have to kick it towards the goal. But here what the rule is, you can either dribble it or pass it. So you could kick it just as you would normally, or you could dribble it in closer. And a lot of these rules, they're really in soccer out on the field of play, you generally have the option, do I need to dribble or do I need to pass? So it's just continuing to reinforce that really at every opportunity. And this will speed up the game as well. Instead of waiting for the rest of the kids to get situated out on the field, if somebody gets over there and takes the corner kick, they can start to dribble it in right away. So it will speed up the play. On a goal kick, the defending team retreats to the center line. Okay, so again, small field, it's 30 yards long. Center line is at 15 yards. So the ball gets placed on the goal arc. and which is maybe 4 yards. So there's only really 11 yards in between the distance. But then that player is allowed to dribble or just kick the ball. But the defending team at the start of it, they retreat back. Now, what you might run into, so this is where, as a coach, you coach your team. You know, if it's not yours, then go back to the center line. Otherwise, if teams, you know, are hurrying up and taking goal kicks, maybe there's not an opportunity for the team to get all the way back to the center line. And just because a kid, you know, does the goal kick before everybody's back to the center line, that doesn't necessarily mean that it gets redone. And it's going to be kind of be referee discretion. Almost anything can happen at that point. So kickoff each quarter, sides or switch sides at halftime. I made reference to that one. After a goal is scored, kickoff at the center line. So this is kind of normal, what would happen. Kickoffs can also be dribbled or passed for the restart. So in grades through 5, the normal rule is if the player who takes the kickoff is the next player, the second player to touch the ball again, it's an indirect free kick at the spot of the second touch. All right, that's how everybody knows that rule, or that's how that rule is. But here, you can just start dribbling the kickoff. Again,
Mike, I'm hearing a lot of background noise. Is somebody not muted?
I think you're right. So everybody, please make sure you're muted. Somebody's doing dishes, I think. Let's see, maybe stop. There's a question. So a question, can a goalie set down the ball and kick it, or is it throw? Yes, you can. So a goalkeeper can throw it, or they can just put it down at their feet and go. Grade 3, who gets to put the ball down, just about shoot at that distance. Yeah, so grades 3, so Dan, grades 3, they play on a, it's 40 yards long, is how long that field is. But again, you'll see, I didn't see much of that. I ended up, for some of the games that I did see this past season, there was a lot of passing to, you know, defenders that were close by. You know, to bring the ball up versus kind of trying to hit a pass down to, you know, somebody on the other end of the field. So kickoffs can be dribbled or passed for restart. Only indirect free kicks. So nothing results in a direct free kick. Kickoffs are not direct. Goal kicks are not direct. Corner kicks are not direct. If there's a foul, if there's a handball, that's not direct. Nothing is results in a direct free kick in grades 1 through 4. Everything is indirect, which means that it needs to touch another player. Could be a teammate, could be an opponent, could be the goalkeeper, before it actually goes into the goal and is considered a goal. So because everything is indirect, penalty kicks also do not apply in grades 1 through 4. Okay. Indirect free kicks resulting from fouls, penalties cannot be dribbled. Okay, so there's the exception. This is, I think, the only scenario or situation where when the ball is stopped, you know, when it's out or we're restarting play, that the ball cannot be dribbled. If it was the result of a foul or a penalty. Opposing players must stand a minimum of 3 yards from the spot of a free kick. So again, ball goes out on the sideline and the player is looking to pass or dribble a ball in. The opposing team needs to stand 3 yards away. So 3 yards is basically 3 large steps away. So where does ball get set on a handball? In the where the players can stand. So if the ball is, and we'll see, I don't know if that's specifically said, but if there's a handball inside the goal area, the ball should be brought out to the top of the goal arc, which is the players can stand on the goal line, so that's 4 yards away. So 4 yards for grades 1 through 4, 5 yards for grades 3 through 4. So that would be fine. And then again, it is indirect. So it would need to touch somebody else before it goes in and would be considered a goal. Either team can substitute at any stoppage, any goal kick, corner kick, indirect kick, pass in, goal scored, etc. Okay, so can substitute at any time. You can substitute on the other team's throw-in if it's their throw-in. Offside penalties do not apply. So in this small-sided format, again, there's one referee, in part because there can be no offsides. So if a team had all their players on their attacking half and a team had one player sitting back by the other team's goal, that's not considered offsides. In here, it would not be called. So again, part of the reason for this, I've coached the younger kids many years ago. I didn't even bother bringing up what offsides was, trying to explain it to the letter of the law until they were at least in 3rd grade. And then it was pretty suspect as far as if people knew what it was. It was just basically telling the players, hey, come here closer. So red and yellow cards are not used in grades 1 through 4. Competitiveness rule applies when a 3-goal differential is reached. The losing team may add 1 player. So again, if a team is winning 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, then the team that's behind can add a player. If it's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, and then 4-1, the team that's losing can add a player. And the idea behind that is, hey, we want to try to keep the games close. Because a close game, a competitive game, is just a lot more is gotten out of it by everybody, all of the players involved, than a team, let's say running up the score, scoring lots of goals, and a team not scoring any. But again, a lot of what these rules are meant to do is to keep play moving, to reinforce the decision making that it's dribble or pass, to simplify, I guess, the game a little bit with respect to what can happen in these different situations. What's the proper restart? Is it direct or indirect? It's just, makes it a lot easier. So yeah, the player comes back off when the difference is less than 3, correct. So if it's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, so a team that's losing adds a player, and then it becomes 4-2, the team that added the player removes that player again. Yes. If it would go 5-2, then they would add the player back.
A question about the goal kick. I've never coached before, and it's been a lot of years since I've played soccer. What do you mean by goal kick, and what do you mean by them having to go to the half
Sure.
field?
Sure. For a goal kick, and if you read the full rules, the explanation is in there as far as what a goal kick is and when it happens. But let's say that red team is attacking the blue team's goal, and red team shoots and misses, and it goes beyond the end line or beyond the goal line, outside of the goal. So then the proper restart, so red team shot it, blue team didn't touch it, so it means it's blue team's ball, and blue team is going to bring the ball to the top of the goal arc, and then red team has to retreat back to the center line.
Okay, so it was out of bounds.
Yep.
When it said goal kick, I'm like, but everybody has to stop at the arc, and then the kid has to kick it into the goal. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
No. So Eric, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, good. So again, the team whose goal kick it is not, they have to move back to the center line. And the idea is that they're giving the team with the goal kick an opportunity to try to move the ball away from their goal, try to advance the ball up the field, and make them think about, hey, you know what? There is enough time and space here for me to pass the ball to one of my teammates or to dribble the ball. Too often, I guess we'll say too often, a player's reaction when they don't have enough time or don't feel like they have enough space to operate is to just blast the ball. Just get the ball away, right? They maybe can't see who's open. There's players too close to them, they can't see them. So that's sort of some of the idea behind that. Any other questions? I mean, I will say again, these rules are kind of different than what most people are used to. The referees have not, if they're 13, they've not played in this sort of a format before, unless they maybe played futsal. Then that's kind of close. Indoor, that's maybe a closer environment to what this is. So they're going to need to kind of train their brain, and they're going to kind of see how it works. And they've all been encouraged to help the young kids out. But it's going to take all of you too. And some of you, you're going to have to kind of work to understand and remember these rules as well. But any other questions?
How does practices work? I haven't got any information on that.
Sure. So I guess, which community are you from?
I'm from Manitowoc.
Manitowoc. Okay. So I would say again, for practices, for ball distribution, for game shirts, for all of those sorts of things, practice fields, work with your community leadership. In some cases, it's community representatives for the community. In other cases, it's presidents. They maybe have boards of directors. Just work with your community leadership. Reach out to them and just ask what's our process going to be for field sign up. So in the case of Manitowoc, I don't know if they have somebody specific, but there's Chris Gutman is the club president, and Chris Corral is he's director of coaching over there. So if you have either of their contact information, and I think.
So I reached out to him. I guess my expectation is it the same as, like, I'm not setting up the practice. They're setting up the practice, correct? And then the teams practice come together, or is it up to the head coach to say, hey, I want practice this day, and another head coach says I want practice this day? In the past, when I've done like assistant coaching, it's been all the teams for goal getters that got together.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe it's and that's why I suggest reaching out to kind of the leadership there to figure out maybe how they're running things or operating things. It looks a little bit different maybe in each community. I can say for Sheboygan, it's everybody maybe has their team, and they're signing up separate for when they want to practice at some designated locations that are available. And that's their practice time slot for that day of the week or those 2 days of the week. Other groups they might practice the same time as another team, or you might have, let's say, 3 first grade teams, and there's one person that's maybe helping in more of a leadership capacity, like here's what we should do, and the other assistant coaches or the maybe coaches for the other teams, they're kind of just doing the same things with their teams. So it can work a number of different ways. Maybe it seemed like all the teams were practicing at the same time because the fields were just full. It was different groups each time, or the same teams were there the same days that you were there. But I think reach out to them and see how if there's a time for you to sign up or something like that. Other questions? By anybody? If anything, if you think of anything comes up, like I said, I'm one of the individuals kind of helping organize this league. I'm the main contact for Sheboygan, all of the Sheboygan teams. I encourage each of you with questions, if you have questions, to reach out to your, I guess, respective community leaders, representatives, club presidents, or, people that are working with each of you, first, and kind of see, depending, maybe it's a community specific question just about operations. If it's, something else, kind of the reason to maybe contact me would be if there's a game change, that's happening. So let's say there's a cancellation, like I'd mentioned earlier, that I need to notify the referees. That would be a reason to reach out to me. And then I'm kind of talking on somewhat of a regular basis with the different community leaders as well. So, any other questions? Like I said, if not, then this session's been recorded. So if there was something that, excuse me, something that you didn't quite catch the first time, you can watch it again. I know there are a number of coaches that weren't here. Kind of the beauty of, having a virtual meeting. If you just want to watch it later when the time is more convenient for you, you can do that. But I am looking forward to a fun and exciting season. So hopefully all of you are as well, especially any of you first-time coaches out there. I think it will be more fun than what you'd originally imagined. So,
Thanks, Mike.
Sure. Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.